You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Johnson.
Welcome, and we are surviving here. DJ Jesse Jandy, kind of getting a little sick on me, and Rich may be sick from last night. We had our premiere party for Serial Buddies up in Boston. That is a movie. It is the first serial killer comedy of all time. So again, that is as is the theme of Survivor. It is the theme of AfterBuzz TV for this edition. We are surviving.
Well, you know who is here surviving with you?
Steve the Steamer.
Steamer.
How's it going?
It's going well. Glad to know you're surviving as well.
Damn right.
So, first off, I have a question for you. I didn't realize as people get voted off, they go on, like they said Redemption Island. I didn't actually realize that was a thing. So what... Can they go back into the game, or how does that work with Semhar this time?
Yes, they go to Redemption Island, and then at the next episode, she will go against the person eliminated tonight, and then they'll keep going like that until a certain point where they decide somebody goes back into the game, whoever's still around.
Yeah.
So like Semhar have to keep winning Redemption Island, and if she's still there, she can enter the game, go back in.
I see. Well, that is, I like that little twist. Now, let me ask you, what do you think of Semhar's poetry and issues with abandonment?
I don't know what to make of the poetry. I'm not very big into like spoken word, so I don't know. I guess she's talented, since I don't know, not really my thing. But
you know what was interesting? I was wondering if like, why would you go on Survivor if you have abandonment issues? Like, you know everyone's going to be devious and basically plotting and strategizing, and there's a high chance that you will be voted off. I mean, you know, one person at the end of it wins, so the chances, the odds are against you. Not a great way to really rebuild your confidence with human beings on this show.
Fair point.
I mean, I'm just saying, but I mean, you know, again, I feel she was voted off for the wrong reasons. As I said last episode, she did lose the challenge for them, but Cochran should have been voted off, and you know, I think it's interesting looking at it this episode because obviously, as they always do, the previews kind of show us, you know, lead us to believe something that doesn't actually quite happen. And last time, obviously, we got the challenge where they were today's challenge where they were going around with the ropes, and he was struggling at it, and he was, but eventually they did win. Whereas we thought, you know, that was going to be their demise once again.
Yep. They tricked us.
They did. But hey, at the good news for you and I, at least we kind of knew that was going to happen, and we just had to predict based off what we saw, but we knew that, you know, perhaps wasn't the full truth. And you did say you thought, what, episode 7 he might get voted off, but definitely not.
Yeah, something along those lines. Definitely not episode 2.
Yeah. Fair enough. So big kind of thing for Savai is that Ozzy this time around finds the idol.
Yeah, I don't know what I think of that, since it just seemed kind of rigged for him. I mean, like, you tell me Cochran would be able to go in the tree and get it.
Mm.
And so they planted in a tree knowing that Ozzy is the only one basically that can climb the tree. Like, no one else on that. Well, maybe some of the more athletic guys can, but basically it was made for Ozzy. So it's like, I don't know if it's like a full on dick in the soup, but they're at least teabagging the soup on that one, since no one else can get that idol besides Ozzy. So it's like he's planning it there basically for him.
Fair
A little
enough.
suspect.
And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, "dick in the soup" is a term we use for a lot of reality shows here on AfterBuzz TV, and that's basically the producer's way of fixing something so that they get the outcome that they want. I.e., in this case, Ozzy having the idol. Because what do we got, Jesse?
Thought you guys wanted a little preview for X Factor.
Oh yeah, we have for the X Factor's just bumping loud in the other studio. I'm so pissed with them. They're the quote cool show. Meanwhile, we're just doing our Survivor show again. The theme, we're just surviving, but hey, here we are and we love it. All right, the first half of this whole episode, as I assume, will be the kind of format for the upcoming episodes, is strategy and all that. And Brandon really bonds with Coach and reveals to him that he's Russell Hantz's nephew, which you and I didn't predict. I mean, maybe you did, but I certainly didn't.
No, I didn't think it'd be that soon. I was hoping there'd be more instances of him like trying to cover up the tattoos for everybody. I thought that was the most interesting part of it, like seeing how creative he can get in doing that. But the fact that he told Coach leads me to believe that eventually it'll come out to the other people, since I don't envision him sticking with Coach for the duration of the show.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because Coach went at him hard. He was like, I don't want to be made to look like a fool twice. And I hope that there's two options. He can either lie to me again, or it can mean redemption for the Hantz family, and I hope it's the latter. Interestingly enough, I mean, we'll get more into this as we go into the elimination, but Brandon lies to Coach.
Yeah.
Which, not really getting off on the right start. But
no. And you tell, as we get there, obviously, Coach's reaction in the tribal council. Obviously, that could be edited too, but even if it was, you can tell he would have been upset at that.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I'll save it for when we get there. But all right, so we have to talk about. I mean, for me, Jim is slowly becoming kind of very funny and one of my favorite characters, because he's so, in some sense, idiotic. He has a marijuana dispensary, which is amazing, and he makes his money off playing poker and all that. And so he thinks, he's going to be perfect fit for this, and he creates this 3+5 ratio, which
3+2 to get to the 5.
Yes, there you go. I stand corrected. And I love how who was the guy he's speaking to? I keep forgetting his name because they don't really feature him much.
That's the guy in the yellow shirt that I was obsessed with last tribal council. I believe his name is Keith.
Yes, it could be Keith. Yes. So he says, let's get Elise, and what was the other girl's name?
Whitney, the country singer.
That's right. What do you think of this strategy? I mean, I love how Keith was basically up. He thinks he's in control, but he's so not, because Ozzy and I already have an alliance, and we've already talked.
The thing is, like, you need like a core group, like, to branch out and go far. Like we saw last episode, Coach doing it with his tribe, trying to get 5, considering there's only 9 people in the tribe, so obviously 5 is the majority. And if those people are solid, you can at least get to the merge or wherever it comes time to cut these people loose. So you want to get the 5 that are solid together. So it is a good strategy, but the problem is, and just watching Jim play from what I've seen, like, I think if I was ever on the show, I'll probably play like Jim. Just think everything's through and just be a tad overconfident, which it seems like he is. Like, just getting like, I orchestrated this plan. This is all my idea. Meanwhile, Keith and Ozzy will probably be calling the shots on it. And either Jim will just go along for the ride, or Jim will probably try to cut them loose at some point. I just see him doing something stupid.
Yeah. And I mean, what I think is ironic and idiotic about Jim is the fact a lot of times most people that think they're in control are not really in control. Anyone who's kind of, because I feel like what goes hand in hand to that is the word complacency. So now he's very complacent that he's got his team. He's all set. He doesn't have to worry about anything. When in reality, again, you do. So, all right. Any last thoughts on that sort of alliance?
No, that's it for the alliance. But you want to touch on like Cochran and Machete? I thought that was pretty amusing. I don't know if we're good. Just the way he's like, my mother told me not to grab a machete. And it's like, you're out there on Survivor. Just do what you got to do. I'm sure your mother didn't want you to have your collar raised up like that or wear your buff around your neck. You look stupid. So just do what you got to do. Don't worry about your mommy.
Yeah.
I think he even said my mommy. I don't know if he said mother. I think it was mommy, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
But that's Cochran, so.
Cochran. Oh my God. I think I would love to see Brandon and Cochran interact more. Because in some sense, I feel like they kind of have the same issues. I mean, Brandon's big struggle is good versus evil, and clearly Michaela is just an evil bitch who is young and good looking, and all she keeps saying is, I'm going to be a model. Like, all right, that's so sinful. Does it say that in the Bible? If you're young, good looking, and want to be a model, you are clearly a sinner.
And I believe last week he mentioned something about poverty, and you asked what that meant. And like, I was just thinking like poverty, like the word, but it seems like he was alluding to Parvati, who was a survivor in the past. He was on 3 times and did fairly well. And basically, her strategy was to use her good looks to attract the men in, and then basically discard them. So I guess he's thinking Michaela's going to do a similar strategy to her, which is possible, but I think Michaela is more of like a physical threat than Parvati was. Like, obviously, as coach was saying, she's the strongest female on their team, so you want to keep her around. But I don't know what Brandon's issue is. There's obviously something more deep-seated there, which I'm sure they'll get into at some point.
I mean, he keeps mentioning how his wife and all that, and this girl's a temptress, but like, at the end of the day, this girl, I just love how every time we go to her, it's just her standing there all by herself. It's not like I could see his perspective if she was grinding up on guys and making out with them in the bushes. But dude, she's not really doing much.
Yeah, and honestly, she's not wearing much, but nobody's wearing much. So what is she supposed to do? Like, go get a pair of slacks somewhere and put them on just to appease him? No, she's going to walk around in what she has. So and they show her like bending over. It's like she's bending over doing work. It's not like she's intentionally like bending over for no reason. She's like trying to catch fish, building the shelter. So unless there's something they're not showing us, his whole thing against her just seems kind of silly.
I think, I mean, she wears the same amount of clothes for my money, as the rest of the girls on that team. So I just really don't get it.
No.
But again, I think his struggle of good and evil comes from the fact that he just wants to bang the shit out of Michaela and just can't.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
He doesn't want to be tempted by her. Just his feelings of he thinks he can be disloyal to his wife, which obviously Michaela's an attractive woman, so I can see that perspective. But to try to pass it off as something else, it's kind of weak. Yeah. Oh my God! Like, I don't even want to talk about Brandon anymore until we get to the later part. So, all right, Christine this time around, unlike Stacy, right? It was Stacy who was okay. So Stacy last time around almost found the clue, but she was right there, but didn't see it. This time Christine finds it, and she struggles. Okay, do I tell or do I not? And she clearly doesn't. And it was interesting. I'm going to borrow a quote from our host tonight. He said, here's your kind of big family, and yet you still don't know who's on your side. You know, you guys preach that you are a family, but you're really not. And I think she's obviously a part of the problem where she has this clue but is not willing to say, like, hey, I have it. Yeah, at the same time, she probably realized she was on the outs, so she wanted to keep it to herself, but I don't know what she was doing to try to get herself out of the outs. Like, you got to try something. Keep looking for the clue, or if you can't find the clue, do something with the fact that you have the clue. Yeah. And I don't know if they didn't show it, but it just seemed Like she was just, I don't know, just kind of complacent, more or less.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if she's
just
not going to show him the clue, at least, I don't know, do something.
yeah. I mean, are you talking about the fact that like okay, she found the clue, but she didn't literally go out and now search for
I'm sure she searched and they didn't show it, but like she's like, well, should I show them? And obviously, as you said, obviously she didn't. But I don't know what her whole strategy in doing that was. Like she had to realize she was on the out, so you gotta do something to
yeah.
anything you can to try to get in their good graces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, Coach's big problem with her is the fact that she basically marked him from the get go of like, okay, I want you gone. Not a good
Which is
strategy right off the bat.
Stupid. Beyond stupid.
Yeah, just keep it in the back of your mind. Get there eventually, but don't announce it. You know you're done for in that regard. And clearly, she is gone for tonight.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to talk about the challenge now?
Yeah, we can get into that.
All right. You have seen way more challenges than I have, whether it's MTV's challenge or the Survivor challenges or any other challenge. Most of my challenge knowledge comes from Legend of the Hidden Temple from Nickelodeon back in the day. But how would you rate tonight's kind of challenge in terms of 1 to 10, in terms of complexity and fun and whatever?
Probably about like a 5. It's middle of the pack. I mean, I thought the untangling the rope would be kind of cool to do, but it didn't seem like it was really that difficult.
No.
I mean, honestly, the only thing holding back Cochran is the fact he's uncoordinated. Like, it wasn't the fact he couldn't figure it out, since it was pretty basic. I mean, just keep turning around and going underneath people. He just kept tripping because he's not athletic.
Yeah.
And obviously, the other team, they whipped through it because basically it was kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into like the actual puzzles, which Survivor loves the puzzles. And as I said last week, that could be one thing that keeps Cochran around. And obviously Ozzy alluded to it in the beginning, like hopefully it's a puzzle and maybe he can show his worth. And they love those big blocks, so it just seemed like a generic Survivor challenge.
Mm-hmm. Did Cochran, in your opinion, really help out with those blocks, or was it more just kind of a team effort?
I think, I don't know what they showed him screaming a little bit back there, but it just seemed like a team effort. It wasn't like he was any sort of ringleader on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what his actual contribution was compared to anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, here's my worry. Like he's a smart guy, and if you gave it to him to figure out, he could. But I think in those high pressure situations, guys like that kind of tend to buckle, and it's sad to say, but I don't think. Sure, he has an intelligence factor, but the fact that he can't rise to the occasion does hinder him. You know,
it could be possible, and maybe as he actually does one of those things on his own, we'll see that. The only thing we really see him do is give like instructions to Ozzy and this thing here. So
yeah,
you could be right, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And then obviously Upulu. I mean, what a huge sort of lead at the beginning, and then God, like, are they really that dumb? Where they just, I mean, this is the second challenge that Ozzy, Coach is involved with that revolves around strategy that he just can't do.
Yeah, they just can't figure out these puzzles, and I don't know what the problem was since they didn't show like every move they made, and I don't know how you would have solved it, but it just seemed like they're sort of complacent in their lead and just either didn't really motivate themselves or couldn't figure it out. I don't know what it was, but the fact that Ozzy and them were able to make up such a huge deficit speaks to how incompetent Coach's team is.
Yeah, and that was kind of the disappointing thing. I didn't think Savai won as much as Upalu just deteriorated. Yeah. You know, and I, in my opinion, I really hate whether it's a sporting event or obviously challenges like this when that happens. Like, okay, I really want two very good sided teams, or just one terrible team and one team just dominates, as opposed to the team that was quote supposed to win just kind of falls flat. I really hate that. But that's the situation we find ourselves in tonight, obviously. I mean, who did now in the second episode, who do you like as a team better, and who are you kind of rooting for in these challenges? Is it more day to day? If so, which one were you with today?
Normally, I pick a team because I like more of the players on there, and I stick with that team, hope they do well. And this one, I haven't really picked. I mean, I like certain people from each tribe. Like, I like Ozzy, and for some reason, I find myself liking Coach, which I didn't really like him the first few times he was on. But this time, I don't know what it is. I'm actually liking him, and maybe that'll change. Actually, I'm probably hoping it changes since I don't want to like Coach, but at this point I am. So I didn't really care who won. Since, actually, yeah, maybe I would be rooting more for Ozzy team since I figured Coaches had more dispensable characters like Christine and Stacy. So it probably worked out for the best. But overall, I don't really have a solid rooting interest yet this season.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's tough to decide. I think for me, it's very fun just kind of watching them.
Yeah.
From an omniscient standpoint, rather than be a full fan of like one team or another. And again, for me, I just love seeing Brandon and Cochran to a degree, and just their stupidity. So speaking of Brandon, why don't we go back to the Mount? What was her name again? Michaela.
Michaela?
Yeah, she screwed many a man, is his quote, and Coach just agrees.
No, I don't know if he was talking about her or Parvati on that one. So I think he was doing his comparison to Parvati at that point, and then say Parvati screwed many a man, which in the game she has. I don't know if you're talking about Michaela.
Oh, okay.
Per se, but I guess thinking that she could do a similar thing and doesn't want that to happen again, which, I mean, to compare her to Parvati, I mean, at the same token, you can compare Brandon to Russell. He's actually related to Russell, so who's to say he can't do the same thing?
Yeah.
So for him to compare somebody to a past contestant, pretty damn stupid, because Coach knows he's related to Russell. So why can't you just think, he's comparing Michaela to Parvati, I can compare this guy to Russell and want to get rid of him. It just doesn't really make much sense to me.
Exactly. Well, your point was very well articulated. But in some sense, I wish you hadn't said that, because I like the idea that Brandon was just basically calling her a whore about her past.
It would be. Hey, we can still go with that. It is more amusing, so whatever works.
But you definitely, I think you very well articulated that. And you're right. You know what? It's ironic because Brandon says, we're gonna have this pact, and he lies to Coach. And that's kind of the big thing, obviously, when they go to the tribal council, is the fact that Coach is being honest and says, hey, I heard that Stacy and Christine said you guys are voting her off, but that's not the case.
Yeah, because obviously we saw Brandon tell them to vote for Michaela, since that's what he's trying to do, which I don't know why he's trying to push that agenda. Like, Coach brought up a good point. Like, Coach is working with them, and Coach wants to get rid of Christine or Stacy and maybe flush out the idol, have the one that play it, and get rid of the other one regardless.
Yeah.
So it's a solid strategy which has worked in the past. So why don't you just go with that and then get rid of Michaela? You can't stand another 3 days or 6 days or whatever with Michaela. Like, get rid of her next if you're so dead set on it. It didn't really make sense to me. But that's Brandon, and I guess he just dead set on getting rid of her.
Yeah, I think it's ironic. In looking at it now, I literally just thought of this. I don't think Brandon's goal is to win Survivor. I think it's just to get rid of her.
It seems to be the case, since it's not a very smart play on his part to do it. So I don't know what the end game is. So I want to get rid of Michaela, and then maybe thinking, then I can start playing. No, you got to start playing from the go, and getting rid of Michaela at this point doesn't really make sense.
And I love how he just goes up to everyone and says, like, we got to get rid of Michaela. We got to get rid of Michaela. And everyone, I mean, they literally should have played like crickets chirping, because everyone was like, why? Why?
Why? Yeah,
just makes no sense. How do you? Oh, we can't trust her and blah blah. Like, what do you mean you can't trust? Like, what is she doing? That's so untrustworthy.
And what I liked about it was when he was like talking to everybody and like Coach and all them, and then Michaela walks up, and instead of just trying to pass it like they're talking about something else, Coach is like, Michaela, can you give her some privacy for a minute? Like, how stupid can you be? You're basically telling her you're talking about her.
Yeah.
Why can't you just, like, everybody's been in a situation where they've been talking about somebody sort of behind their back,
at work or school or what have you, and then that person walks up, and you don't tell them to leave. You like change the subject to something else. But like for Coach to do that, it didn't really make any sense, and really showed how short-sighted he could be.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be his downfall, but who knows?
We'll see. And I like the brief stint between Christine and Edna, I believe it was, where Edna comes
Yeah.
up and she's basically reporting back the news, and Christine basically calls her out. You got to get your story straight, honey. What are you saying?
Yeah. Yes. It's obviously a bad lie. So right there is probably why I think that was the one who voted for Edna. So just basically like, yeah, you're just dumb. Here's what you get for not getting your story straight, basically. Like, you can't just say, oh, we'll vote for her when that person was there. Obviously, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Edna, I don't think I'm gonna predict it right now. I don't think she's really surviving much because she obviously didn't participate in the challenge, right? That was her.
Yeah, they had her.
Yeah.
Out. I think her future depends on Coach and what his actual sway is with the rest of his alliance tribe or whatever it'll end up being, since that would be like a solid vote for Coach. So obviously he'd want to keep her around. It just depends on what the other people say and how much Coach wants to keep her around, because she doesn't seem to like, just the fact that she couldn't really lie to Christine shows that she's not the smartest person in the world.
Yeah.
And obviously she's not the most athletic, so who knows? But weak players per se like that have lasted a bit. It depends on how often the tribe wins and all sorts of like most scenarios. But if I was playing, you'd want to get rid of her as soon as you can, since I don't know what she's actually doing for the tribe.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the tribal council then. Coach opens it up, and as he says, he's just being honest, and he lays everything out on the table. Is that kind of his strategy? Is he always that kind of bold, the Dragon Slayer?
He definitely claims to be honest and wants to be loyal and all that. But in his first season, he was kind of shifty. In the second one, he was more as he claims to be. So I would think that is more or less his character, like to be loyal and honest and kind of be straightforward. So we'll see if he can stick with that this season. But his actions tonight in Tribal seemed to be pretty damn honest. Like, he just telling it as it is. And he heard that they were voting for Michaela. He didn't know any better.
Yeah. And I like how he did say, I mean, I know they jumped on him from the get-go, but it's weird because he said, like, hey, I just heard this. I didn't say I heard it from you. Yeah. We haven't talked since day one. And yet they still persisted. It's not like he was going against them like, no, that's what I heard. Like, you got the answer you wanted.
Told me that, yeah.
So, and I think that's when, I don't know, that could have really shifted things for Christine and Stacy, because obviously they're the ones who got the most votes. And in some regard, I forget, who's the other guy who raised the notion that, like, then they try to pin it, like, why aren't you saying who said it? And the guy said, well, he's just being loyal to the guy who did say it, but at least he's being honest enough to say that, hey, it wasn't actually you two guys.
I believe that person's name is Albert. He's the one who has the somehow immaculate sweater 6 or 7 days into the jungle. I don't know how that sweater still looks good. What's he do, like, back in tribe? Is he, like, hang that on a tree, take it to a dry cleaner somewhere? But that thing looked pretty damn sharp, considering he's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. He's the businessman. I love it.
I have to give him credit. He was looking pretty good in Tribal Council.
Yeah,
and he made a very solid point defending Coach, so I give him credit on that too.
Exactly. And then Brandon, out of nowhere, just comes clean and says, hey, I was the one who did this. And what do you think Coach's reaction was about? Because in my sensibility, it was, okay, Coach, at this point, he knew that Brandon lied. And he was, but he was honest to his word where he was loyal to Brandon. And rather than rat him out, he had a bigger play in mind. And Brandon revealing this fact that he lied was not part of it. And it was like, dude, what are you doing? You just messed up the whole strategy.
I think it was like a combination of those things. Like, basically, he was probably disappointed that he lied to him and saying how Christine and Stacy wanted to vote for Michaela, like the reason behind that. And at the same time, there's no reason for him to announce to everybody he was one to say that. Because, I mean, it just put a target on Brandon's back. And if coaches wanting to align with Brandon, it doesn't really do coach any good since they're all suspect of Brandon. Then eventually that might shift to being suspect of coach.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a bad move as far as his connection to Brandon was concerned.
You know what? I think Brandon's days might be numbered.
I would think so too. And it might be something like Cochran where he gets a few more episodes out of it. But in terms of like long term, I don't see it at this point. Maybe he could surprise us and go far, but he's like the anti-Russell at this point. Like Russell would never do that.
Yeah.
If he's trying to prove that he's not Russell, which he says he is. At the same time, Russell was a very good game player. He just got a little too cocky at the end. But it makes no sense to do what Brandon did tonight.
I mean, Brandon is this for me. Have you ever seen the movie Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood?
Yep.
All right, so Clint Eastwood, for those of you who don't know, unlike me and Steamer, he basically, throughout the whole movie, he refutes his reputation of it's a cowboy movie, so he's killed women and children and everything in existence. And for the whole movie, he refutes, like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. That's not me, blah, blah. And as an audience, you just know the inevitable is going to happen at the end, where he basically turns back into the real person that he is, who is a killer of women, men, children, and all that, and animals. And Brandon, who as much as he says he's battling good and evil, wants to not lie, etc., I mean, the inevitable is already kind of coming to fruition because he's already lied once. Of the fact that, you know what, maybe you're the dick. Maybe Michaela is not so much the dick and the bitch and the temptress. So,
I mean, his true colors could be coming out. I mean, we'll have to see where he goes from here, like how he tries to rectify what he did. Because obviously he had to apologize to Michaela. He had to apologize to Coach. And that could go a long way in seeing how long he actually lasts in the game.
yeah. I mean, here's what I would like to see: Brandon versus Cochran on a Redemption Island challenge. And I wish, like, all the kind of myths and fables would exist, like, you know, like you have to find, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I wish there was, like, some sort of magic involved and there was, like, an actual good and evil spirit that they have to search for or whatever, and, like, it would destroy their souls or something, because these guys, their imaginations are getting the best of them. I mean, I get it, Survivor and all that, but hey, at the end of it, I get it, there's the, whatever, immunity and all that crap, but hey, at the end of the day, it's all just kind of make-believe.
Yeah, but that good versus evil theme is the sort of same theme that last season Russell was back for his third time, and he was eliminated fairly early, and he went to Redemption Island. And the person he went against Redemption Island with, Russell being like this big evil guy, was this Bible-reading, like, young, handsome kid, athletic, very nice kid, just kind of naive. So it was the epic good versus evil battle, and that's what, like, as it was going on, like, pro should be like giving commentary and just trying to spin that theme all throughout, and then eventually good won and Russell was sent home. So maybe that could happen to his nephew, like a similar sort of thing where he goes up against like good versus evil, maybe thinking he's good or what have you. But it would be pretty interesting.
It would be. Well, any last thoughts before we go to commercial? And I have one special request, Jesse. After we come back from commercial break, let's come in on DMX says, Lord, give me a sign, because I think Brandon really needs to listen to that song.
I think it would have been funny at the end was Christine was leaving, like Coach getting like a pretty shot about like being a temporary player. Since obviously there's no more temporary player than being the first one eliminated from your tribe.
Yeah.
It would have been a kind of spitty little jab, but if he just didn't think of it, didn't want to say it, it would have been pretty amusing.
It would have. I just don't think he's that type of guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he chooses words kind of carefully. But hey, I would, you know what? It would have been fun to say, like, hey, has he ever said, like, the Dragon Slayer slays again or something to that extent?
Well, in the first season when he eliminated, like, his big adversary that he sort of turned his back on, that's when he was all on the Dragon Slayer. And I don't know if he ever did anything like third person like that, but it definitely would seem in the realm of his whole Dragon Slayer
character that he was doing at the time. So maybe if he gets back into it, we'll see something along those lines, since it would be pretty amusing.
Fair enough. Well, maybe Brandon's going to turn into that dragon and he's going to have to slay him.
Yeah,
Who knows?
That could very well be.
All right. Well, with that, why don't we hit a commercial break and then we'll come back with predictions.
Want to find out what the AfterBuzz is about?
Janice is a drama queen.
This is the divide that is going to carry the series.
Give us a call. 424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
It's television, and they want it to be as dramatic as possible.
I mean, it's Shakespearean.
You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Find out why AfterBuzz TV is the #1 source for after-show content.
Now, in the eyes of Jimmy, Nucky is a villain.
424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
I mean, who would you guys rather hear that from? Your husband or your best friend?
The wig will come out.
When the TV show is over, get your AfterBuzz on.
There we go. See, Brandon just needs to listen to this over and over. Someone's got to fly him an iPod. Are you familiar with this song, Steamer?
Yes, I am.
There you go. So you know what's up. All right.
Yep.
Why don't we get into some predictions?
I don't know. It seems like the
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
focus on
predictions.
And I didn't really see much from the other tribe, and I don't know where it's going to go next week, but it seems to me like Coach's tribe has much more dysfunction. So I'm going to say they lose again, and I'll cop out and say Stacy goes home, since if Ozzy's tribe leaves, I don't know who it would be. But obviously on Coach's, we know Stacy's the odd woman out, so I'm guessing her.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think they had a lot to go off of. I mean, they kind of played up the fact that Ozzy has an idol and Brandon's battling good and evil. So I don't know. I hope it's not a weak episode. I mean, I enjoyed tonight's very much, and obviously they played up the Cochran kind of failure last time, and that didn't happen. That didn't bother me. So hopefully it's just kind of, I don't know. Someone's uncreative in their teaser cutting skills, but I'm hoping for another good episode.
I think it will be, since there is a decent number of characters and players to sort of root for or root against. So I don't think it'll be that bad of an episode, regardless of how sort of weak the actual teaser looked.
Yeah.
I think it'll keep moving the storyline along, and Brandon, Cochran, and those type of players will have some more screen time for us to laugh at and make fun of.
All right. Well, with that, I think ends our show. We thank you for listening. As always, keep tuning in. We're here. And be sure to check out the Steamer on other shows that he's done, whether it's Breaking Bad, for those of you who want to go back and rewatch Challenge from MTV, or The Real World, he's also on there. We will be back next week. Steamer, any plugs you want to throw our fans' way? All right, how about this? Follow the Steamer on Twitter at the Steamer. He's a fun guy to follow. Anyways, all right, I guess that's it. We'll see you next week.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.